Hello and welcome to Newspeak. I'm Peter Whittle. This is the New Culture Forum's weekly look at current issues and affairs, broadcast, social media, of course the newspapers. This week I'm joined by Dr. Philip Kiszely, our Senior Fellow, Lecturer at Leeds University, and Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, Senior Fellow and Royal Correspondent, who you might have seen on GB News quite a lot recently. Now, I wanted to start by talking about Netflix. Do you watch Netflix?
I do, I have to say.
You watch Netflix?
I go out of my way not to.
Right, okay. Yeah. Well, apparently more and more people are taking your approach, because Netflix has lost something like 1 million subscribers. They peaked during the pandemic, but why is this particularly? I know a lot of people on our side of the argument would say it's because, you know, they're woke and go woke, go broke. Do you buy that?
Well, to a degree, yes. For a lot of people, go woke, go broke is very much a reason for Netflix's decline. But at the same time, some of its most popular shows, like Bridgerton, are the very definition of woke.
Yeah.
I think there are several things going on here. For example, I mean, firstly, they thought they were going to lose 2 million, so they're actually quite happy it's only been 1 million. But yes, a lot of it peaked during COVID. People were in lockdown, they had to watch Netflix. Now they've got other options. Also, there's now a cost of living crisis that's taking place, and people are tightening their belts. And but the main issue that you're seeing is that it's simply a lack of quality. Woke or non-woke, Netflix has been throwing money at ridiculous ventures, producing substandard products, and they also have to deal with the competition from Disney Plus, from Prime Video, from Paramount Plus now, and they've decided those apps, rather than hosting their material on Netflix, they've taken their original material back onto their platforms, and Netflix now doesn't have any great backlog. You can't go on there and watch old films. It's all new content, and unfortunately, the majority of that new content is abysmal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
along with that?
yeah.
You don't watch it. You must have watched it at some point.
Well, I've seen it, but I go out of my way to watch it. I go out of my way not to watch it. I would much rather watch things like Talking Pictures TV. I'll just give it a plug. Talking Pictures TV.
What are they?
It's a heritage channel which shows old movies, old television shows, and is quintessentially British. I think one of the problems with I think the go woke, go broke thing works to a certain extent, but I think people who are watching it anyway, most of them don't mind that. I think there's a blandness to a lot of the stuff, mainly because it's global and it has to appeal to the biggest possible audience. So if you're looking for something that speaks particularly to our culture, you're not going to go to Netflix. You know, you go to homegrown stuff. The problem is if you go to the BBC, it's worse, you know. But I think, as Rafe says, I think there are various issues here, not least the cost of living crisis, and because there's more competition now. So I think it's a complex picture, but I think you know, maybe the woke stuff is part of it, certainly.
See, what would you say? I mean, Bridgerton is about as woke as you can get. Do you mean in the diversity casting?
And diversity casting and just the general plot. I mean, the problem with a lot of these woke productions, of course, is that plot is secondary to identity politics, and they have to tick the boxes first before they actually think about the story. And then you're always going to have something substandard. But in some senses, woke is actually winning. So young people are the most likely to be unsubscribing from Netflix right now. But where are they going? They're going to Channel 4, All 4 app. They're going to the BBC iPlayer. So they're definitely not making a decision not to go woke. Yeah. Disney Plus is growing hugely. So they are one of the success stories right now. Now Disney Plus, as we all know, is extremely woke.
Extremely woke.
And in fact, they've shown for the first time, politicians always rank lowest in terms of American favorability ratings. Yeah. Disney Plus now ranks below Biden and Trump. It's gone from 70-odd% favorability rating in the last 5 years to 33%. Well, and yet at the same time, their subscription rates are going up. So it's a very curious, but the thing is they have quality programs on there, which aren't woke as well. They've got documentaries and so forth. But it's a very difficult issue to get ahead on, because for the people who are woke, or basically people who are young who don't know anything else but woke, it appeals to them. Those of us who are older, of course, find solace, like myself, in Prime Video, which has a back catalogue of the golden era of which I like, the 1940s to the 1960s and 70s. And I spend most of my time watching old movies and reminiscing about happier, quieter times.
So do you, don't you?
But yeah, but it's not just about nostalgia. It's about detail. So I'm interested in the detail of culture, and there's just no detail on a global scale. It just doesn't work for me.
Well, isn't it interesting how if you look at James Bond films, for example, and you can look at how they've changed, the dialogue in James Bond films, and indeed in most action films, has declined dramatically. Why? Because those films have to appeal to an Asian audience for whom British witticisms won't mean anything at all.
Well, that's the whole secret behind. One of the secrets behind the Marvel franchise.
Yeah.
It's entirely it goes across
action.
borders,
Yeah.
and you don't sort of need any kind of nuance. What I find when I look at dramas on Netflix, because I do watch it, what I find is, and this isn't necessarily woke, but I find it very hard to care about the people in the drama.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, is crucial. I mean, your whole discipline is cultural history, isn't it? Performance. I find it extremely hard to care. And I was watching, I think it was a rape story. I thought I should care about these people, and the reason I didn't is I realised is that they had no hinterland whatsoever. They had no moral framework whatsoever. There's no judgment cast on anyone. No interest, therefore. No interest.
That's one of the peculiar things about modern culture, isn't it? This hesitancy to judge anything apart from racism or sexism or the things that you have to judge, and you have to stand up and seem to be judging. I think you've just summed it up. I don't care about any of it because it doesn't speak to what I'm interested in. It's just so incredibly bland. But just while you were talking about that, and just while Rafe was talking about that, I was thinking about other things as well. And I was thinking about the internationalization of culture. And certainly I'm thinking about education and the internationalization of the curriculum. And I was thinking how it's impacted. We talk about British history and how we teach British history and where British history is going. And it's disappearing for the same reason. It's if you have a curriculum that you have to be inclusive, it has to be about diversity, it has to be international. What you gain in global breadth there, you lose in local detail. And if you are trying to teach British history and British cultural history, that's a real problem.
Yeah,
and the problem is then we have a generation of children and students who don't know their own history.
And of course,
they know fictionalized, like The Crown couldn't be more local. Actually, that is in some ways a testament to the extraordinary power of the British Crown. That they would make a series. They wouldn't make it.
It's
about,
a slightly different thing,
Danish
isn't it?
Crown.
Yeah.
And of course, movies are hugely important in defining a culture and in inculcating people in that culture. That's why people all over the world know about Elvis Presley and have dreams about America. Yeah. But of course, America, being the scion of Britain, had a huge era when they were producing British films, looking at Robin of Sherwood, King Arthur and his court, King Henry VIII and so forth. And actually a lot of the British culture we consumed was actually through American films. Lion in Winter, all of this sort of thing that was being put out.
Man of a Thousand Days.
Man for All Seasons, all of the stuff that was put out, that's gone.
That's gone.
And that was actually, in a way, America was actually helping to fuel this interest in British culture, and that's all disappeared.
One of the things I think about as we're talking about this, and it's a recurrent theme, isn't it, that identity politics infects everything, and we're talking about narratives here about different kinds of things, and we're talking about this infrastructure or metastructure, whatever you want to call it, of identity politics. I wonder when people are going to get bored of being lectured in a very one-dimensional way about racism, sexism, homophobia, because all of the cultural content, I say it's one-dimensional, it's completely one-dimensional, isn't it? And it's the same thing over and over again. It's like a kind of pornography in a way, isn't it? Where you're just being subjected to the same thing over and over. And I just wonder when people are going to get fed up of that. And I say, won't go broke is only a small part of it, but actually thinking about it, is there something happening where people are thinking, oh, enough already?
It does happen in one area, in one field, and that's with female headliners in TV shows and films. it seems as if the one area where go woke, go broke really does happen is when it's a female lead.
Yeah.
So you saw that with the female Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
There was the Charlie's Angels that they did, and then of course you've got this Ms. Marvel now, Supergirl, She-Hulk.
Yeah.
All of those things are doomed to failure, and it seems it's anything led by women seems. But whereas for me, it's colourblind casting.
Yeah.
To me, that's a red flag. I really wanted to watch David Copperfield thing. I really wanted to watch Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, but I refused to because they had colourblind casting, and I just knew I was going to sit down and be subjected to all of this wokery. And so it's a shame because I'd love to watch those great things, but I just refuse to do it.
Because it acts like an intervention, doesn't it? The woke interference is a barrier between you and the historical text. You know, it doesn't open up history. It doesn't ask questions, you know, interesting questions like it's supposed to do. It for 99% of people, I'm sure it does the absolute opposite. It closes off history, and that's really tragic to me.
That presupposes that you know or have got some kind of idea of what that history is. Because the thing is, if you take Bridgerton, right, there is a slim kind of rumour that Queen Charlotte, George III's wife, was mixed race or something. That's been going around for years. So they go the whole hog, don't they? And they have a mixed race actress doing it. But then you have black members of the British aristocracy and gentry. And I often wonder, couldn't this backfire? Because the whole point is about oppression, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have them walking down Pall Mall, you know, mixed race couples, you know, aristocrats, absurd for the time. But when people look and say, well, of course, this has always been the case. Then the other side could come back and say, well, in that case, what are you going on about?
I read a piece by a black Canadian actor who was basically saying the same thing and saying, where are people going to learn about oppression if generations are just seeing everyone living in happy harmony?
Yes.
What happened to the civil rights struggle? People go, what are you moaning about? You were a duchess, weren't you?
Well, there's one other, just a quick addition to that. I've got a friend who's a black actor, and he says, oh, well, on the one hand, it's great for me because, you know, 95% of the population of British adverts are African Caribbean, aren't they? So it's great. But on the other hand is, as an actor, it's terrible because if I want to get my teeth into a part and I want to play a villain, a really horrible, nasty villain, there are no parts there for black people who are nasty. All the parts for black people are virtuous, sexy, cuddly, knowing, full of wisdom, boring parts.
Interesting you mentioned that because Robert Toombs just wrote last week a piece in The Spectator about a new Netflix drama. It's RRR. That stands for something, but I'm not quite sure what. But it's based in the Raj 1920s, and of course the British are absolute, you know, pig nasty in it, and it is the British now, or should be a certain type of British person, who is going to be the villain, isn't it?
It's always been that way, though, because of American culture, because of the American Revolution, right? The British are coming. So think about Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Everybody on the Death Star, Peter Cushing onwards, they were all, you know, very famous British actors, unknown to an American audience. And you've always had that sense. And then you look at all the swashbuckling things, and you've always got that dastardly British chap with a, you know, Terry Thomas moustache sort of a thing going on. And now it's expanded, of course, because now the British Empire, which back in the old days was celebrated by the Americans, is now seen as being intrinsically evil. And so this stereotype of the evil British, but it's always an upper class British person. It's always an RP accent. It's never a Liverpudlian, you know.
An evil Scouser, God forbid. Part of it is having a villain that's sophisticated, isn't it? You know, and a worthy adversary.
Effete, maybe. A bit like Alan Rickman in Die Hard.
Yeah. But it's as cliched now, and I think it was cliched then, but it's as cliched now as it used to be having a Nazi villain. You know, it's exactly the same thing, isn't it? And you think to yourself, this is really lazy writing. I know it's cultural indoctrination on a deeper level, but on a surface level, it's just lazy writing. And when you see that kind of thing, I just turn off completely. It's the Netflix thing. I'm not interested in it.
Do you think, you know, you said that your bugbear is like that kind of casting, which it gets right in the way, or like Anne Boleyn being played by a black actress and everything. Unthinkable the other way around.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Unthinkable. But do you have the same reaction to ads if you ever see them? this is a real big deal at the moment, isn't it?
Well, it's remarkable, and I think
Ads, you know.
I think the fact that there are so many black characters in advertising today,
Or mixed
race, yes, but that's also another issue. Why don't they go for darker faces? Quite often it's not.
yeah.
Although that has changed too. There are actually a lot more darker faces too. But it's inherently racist because black people make up 3% based on the 2011 census, 3% of the population. Asians make up 7% of the populations, yet I challenge you to find an Asian face there. And this idea that somehow we've become so, so racially equal, well, excuse me, if this isn't racism, I don't know what is. You're completely abandoning a far larger segment of the population, let alone the fact that Asia is a part of the world population. It's far larger than the population of Africa.
It's an absolute box-ticking exercise. It's ironic, it completely backfires. But there's something else as well, and it's interesting to see the effect of these things. So there was, I don't know whether you know, and I don't know whether viewers have seen it, but there was a YouGov poll about that was a survey, and it asked, do you know what I mean? It asked a number of people, how many black people, how many Asian people, how many gay people, how many trans people, and it gave the responses. And so I can't remember what it was, I'd have to look, but it was something like people thought about 30% or 20% of the population was black, and it's something nearer to 3%, isn't it? They thought 20% of the population was gay, and it warps people's perception of where they live. They've got no idea of the demographics in terms of where they live. They see television and adverts in particular, and it gives a completely skewed vision of the country.
And this whole notion of black and minority ethnics, I've never understood. You always hear this phrasing, aren't blacks also minority ethnics?
Yeah.
Why do you need to single them out uniquely amongst the Chinese or the Japanese or the Indians or the South American? I've always found this strange, and again, you're seeing this in advertising, and you're quite right. Whatever people see, especially children watch advertising, and we know how influential advertising is, and they're growing up with these warped attitudes. And of course, it works both ways too. In the north of England, you have these ghettos of Islamic segregated communities where all they see are Islamic television on satellite TV, and they actually think, there are schools which are 80% Asian, and they think their country is majority Muslim and majority Asian. What you see around you and through the media does influence your perception of the country.
Yes. What's interesting as well, though, is that there are whole groups that are left out of the victim pantheon. So
Jews.
Well, exactly. Isn't that just supremely ironic, given the persecution of Jews?
Given the most persecuted people in the history of the
and
world.
Yet somehow they are not, and also Chinese people. This was somehow not seen as victims. Jews successful, basically.
And with the Jewish population, they're somehow tainted by the West, they're tainted by Israel, they're tainted by imperialism, all of those things, capitalism, and the Corbynista left run with those anti-Semitic tropes, don't they? They're so sensitive about, the countryside's racist, everything's racist. When it comes to Jews, you can bash them on the head. They've got no sensitivity whatsoever. Because they're anti-Semitic.
And the attempt to downplay the Holocaust and look at slavery as being, and you often hear today, slavery was the greatest act of evil ever committed in the world, where clearly it wasn't. Evil as it wasn't the greatest act ever committed, and yet there's this desire to sort of forget all about the Jewish plight. Not only the Jews, the Poles. I mean, my family are Polish, not Jewish, but one of them was killed in Auschwitz before, because originally was a Polish political prisoner before the Jews were there.
We're talking about what everyone talks about now. But there's a case which to me sort of encapsulated a lot actually in Leeds, where you are, of the Northern Dance Theatre.
The School of Contemporary Dance,
School of Contemporary Dance. It's been going for years because great love for ballet.
It's housed in an old synagogue actually in Leeds.
Right. But they hit the news last week because they are getting rid of ballet as a kind of entry requirement, I think, or because it's elitist and white, and it was formed by European ideals, formed by white European ideals. Now, it's completely unvarnished. There's no attempt. This is bad, therefore. Right?
They must have missed the memo there, because it's high culture. it's supposed to be elitist. Did they not get that when they've been teaching it for the last God knows how long? This is, it's unvarnished. It's, this is exclusionary apparently, isn't it? And the reasons they give, one of the reasons they give is that, it costs money for ballet lessons and not everybody can afford it, so we've got to ban ballet. And I look at that and I think to myself, well, it costs money to go to medical school. Should we ban medicine? Another reason is that it's exclusionary to particular body types. So not everybody can, this is an elitist, brilliant art form. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody can do it, so let's ban it. Okay, and again, I think of a comparison. Not everybody's clever enough to go to medical school. What do? Ban medicine, So if you think about what we do to culture and you transfer it to science or health, I mean, I know it's happening in those those areas, but not at the same rate. If you make that transition, you see how stupid it is. You know what I mean? So if the lowest common denominator can't do it, then nobody can do it. And that's so stupid.
It doesn't make any sense. I think with ballet, it goes across classical music now. Generally. It's what's different, if you like, as opposed to medicine, is that it's one of the kind of building blocks of our culture,
of our civilization,
etc. Yeah. And so, therefore, it's got to go. So, like the attack on classical music really has got the wind in its sails in the US more than here, although it is here too.
Well, could you imagine those same people saying that Indian classical dance is too brown, that it is rooted?
Or Kathakali, you can't do that.
Could you imagine? Or Chinese opera, another great art form, would they dare to attack that for being monocultural? I mean, imagine creating an art form within a wholly exclusive race and then just saying, actually, no, this is wrong because there happened to be no immigrants in the country at that time. Now, Princeton University has done the same thing with their ballet school. And they said that they were going to axe it because it was white supremacist and it aimed for perfectionism. Now imagine that.
Aiming for perfectionism. Oh.
And that this was a white standard.
Princeton.
Perfectionism was a white standard. Now, would you expect an athlete to, how do you get a gold medal? By perfectionism, right? How do you become a Yo-Yo Ma? Everything is done through perfectionism. That is what we expect of our great artists and athletes and the finest people in society. I would like to have a surgeon who was a perfectionist. Call me old-fashioned.
Yes, would be nice.
Well, in a way, that's why I make the comparison because getting to medical school is elitist. We need some really thick people in medical school, to even it out a little bit. Let's have some thick surgeons. If I need, God forbid, if I need some brain surgery, I want the brightest guy doing it, or woman.
I can just see the dance troupe of fat people throwing each other across the stage of amateurs.
There was actually
at the Royal Opera House. What a wonderful show that would be.
There was a fat troupe, wasn't there? The
Roly-Polies.
The Roly-Polies. Les Dawson. They used fantastic dancers.
Actually, they were quite good, though. Actually,
they were quite good, but they probably couldn't be on now because the whole point of them was that they were fat.
Yeah.
So probably they couldn't get. See, what worries me about this is, you could say, this is wokery, but for me, it's more than wokery. This is a full-scale attack on the idea of beauty, as you said, perfectionism, and achievement, and for that matter, intellectual excellence. It's an attack by the mediocre and the ugly. So there's one of the funniest. I don't know if you saw, but not Men's Health, but. What is the American main exercise? It's famous. Not sport. I think it's sports.
Sports Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated. And they had a fat model on. Jordan Peterson got into real trouble on Twitter because he said, sorry, not beautiful at all. Right? Now, they went for him. And in fact, I think he got suspended, actually.
Yes, he did, yeah.
But what is the point of having, what we all know it's a big lie. Right, but we all kind of go along with it, It's the same with the ballet thing, same with, it's this idea that somehow I can't understand it or I will never gain that level of expertise, so I will somehow bring it down.
You just have to look at virtually all cultures in the world, all main civilizations, and there is a standard of beauty. We know what it is. There's a symmetry, there's a slenderness. You can be toned or muscle for a man. Just look at statues, look at paintings, apart from Rubens, and you'll see that across cultures that exists. And to try to deny the reality of thousands of years just shows you that the agenda that is underway.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, isn't it, where it's almost like they'll allow us to have food, but they'll strip it of nutrition. You know, they'll just allow us to have slops, but we're not allowed to have anything nice and or healthy. And that's what they're doing to culture. And a society that doesn't have, that can't boast excellence, that can't have a pinnacle, is, I've said it before, but you know, a society that's really in trouble. I always come back to that. I mean, society that's dead.
It's dead. I'm trying not to end on a gloomy note. I mean,
sorry about that.
But I mean, our own standard of beauty and excellence, Emma, will be here next week, so you can report to that.
Brilliant segue.
But thanks very much indeed. Thanks for that. Really interesting discussion. Thanks very much, Rafe. We'll be back next time, and so please do like the show, won't you? And we shall see you then. Thanks. Hello. If you're enjoying the New Culture Forum channel and you believe in our mission, may I invite you to join our membership scheme at the link below or on our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. Our work is more important now than ever, and we have great plans ahead for the future, but we can't do it without your support. From as little as £3 per month, you can help ensure that we continue on our mission. As a member, you'll receive a range of benefits, including access to exclusive content, invitations to our private events, including here at our studios, free copies of our books, and much, much more, including, of course, our famous NCF mug. If you aren't able to become a member, then please help us by clicking this button and subscribing to our channel. It's completely free. Just remember to also click the bell icon so that you can get notifications when we post new videos. Thank you.